Is it true that Huijin's moving overseas questions one of Huijin's friends? As a couple of her friends talk to one another, wondering where Huijin and her brother are, as they haven't heard from either of them, one of the girls questions Ayong, who is one of Huijin's closest friends and seems to be extremely anxious, as she wonders about Huijin's sudden disappearance. They ask Ayong if she possibly knows anything about Huijin's case, but she just responds timidly that something must have happened as Huijin is not even answering her calls. As we see Ayong nervously thinking back to what Huijin texted her, which was her thought to be a victory against Aijin. Ayong tries to reassure herself, thinking that Huijin's dismissal has nothing to do with Aijin. As they continue talking to each other, all of a sudden Huijin appears, shocking all of them as they thought she moved overseas. As Huijin goes to sit with them, her friends question whether she's really moving overseas and what caused all this to happen. She tries to hide it with excuses, stating that all of it just sort of happened and that she'll be back after one semester as she thinks back to her father, who states that they'll be moving out. They all laugh in jealousy as Huijin will just be taking a one-semester break and that there's no point if it's one semester. Still curious, they continue inquiring why they're moving out all of a sudden. Frustrated, Huijin doesn't reveal her real reasons as to why they're moving out, so she just makes up an excuse that it's just a family matter. When all of a sudden one of her red-haired friends asks what happened to the girl and her brother that she was bullying with, Huijin goes silent. Without wanting to embarrass herself or her brother, she just states that everything went fine when, in reality, she's angered. Dissatisfied with how things ended with Dayun, she thinks that they should bully her one more time before she leaves. Concerned, Ayong tries to stop Huijin. Huijin, not listening, continues on about her plan, stating how cocky Dayun would be if she just left without doing anything. Ayong gets more concerned as she's not so sure about the plan. With a menacing face, Huijin reveals how she'll ruin Dayun's life by firing her grandpa with her mother's influence, and that she'll also rough her out before going abroad, when all of a sudden Aijin comes around, stating, "Now I'm really glad that I came," surprising Huijin, who turns around. As she sees an ominous figure, scared, she stands up and backs away, panicking, calling out his name. But Aijin, masked up, covering his identity, just makes fun of her, asking who Aijin is. With cold sweat running down her face, Huijin starts to get nervous, while her friends ask who he is. Aijin just continues talking, stating how lucky he is that everyone from that video, which references when Dayun was getting beaten, is here. Her friends, concerned, question what video he's talking about. Aijin angrily remarks at her, stating that they know exactly what he's talking about, as all of them go silent, trembling in fear. Aijin asks them a question, why isn't anyone singing? Since he thought they all loved to scream as he closes the door. We go back to Jisoo Kim and his parents, who are at the hospital. Jisoo's dad questions why Huijin isn't here. Jisoo answers honestly, stating that she just went out to see her friends. His dad, angered, notes that she should have just stayed put until they left. When all of a sudden, one of his security guards comes in, asking him to watch the news. As the news reveals what Jisoo and Huijin have been doing, and the type of crimes they've committed, as well as how their parents are also criminals who have been involved in illegal practices such as blackmailing and threatening others for political reasons. We're then cut to Aijin walking by. Mr. Cha spots Aijin and asks him why he released all that personal information, inquiring that he thought Aijin already had a deal with Mr. Kim. We then get back to what Aijin was thinking. He monologues to himself, narrating that he had to act quickly, as his identity might have gotten revealed, and that he already knew he was against a powerful politician, as he's listening to the video of his sister getting beat, and that he thought it would have all been over if he could just get Yoon and Jisoo Kim out of his sister's way. Aijin then answers Mr. Cha, stating that he was just petty. Mr. Cha confusedly remarks that if that's his excuse, and whether he's confident nothing would happen to him. Aijin again answers back how he'll be the last thing that Mr. Kim and his family would be worrying about. As we get back to Mr. Kim, who's shocked, almost falling on his knees, realizing that his run as a politician is over, since the majority of his scandals have been revealed. Mr. Cha, confused, inquires how Aijin managed to find all the data on Mr. Kim from him, as Mr. Cha notes to himself that he secretly hid all of Mr. Kim's scandals just in case he wanted to break free from their business. He then asks Aijin a question one more time about his identity. Aijin just answers back that he's just an average teenager. Mr. Cha, snickering, remarks how he's no ordinary teenager, as Aijin just heads back home. Chapter 11. We find ourselves in a classroom full of students, with a couple of girls gossiping about Aijin. Aijin receives a text message from Daeun, who asks him to adjust to his school life and assures him that she'll be fine walking back home. Contemplating how to hang out, Aijin is greeted by Yongshan. Yongshan then inquires whether Aijin is busy today, prompting a sudden realization that Aijin usually walks home with his sister. However, Aijin states that he's free today. Surprised and excited, Yongshan asks if Aijin wants to hang out, to which Aijin agrees. As Hyukjin and Jaehyung approach, they discuss the sudden disappearance of Jisoo Kim and his sister, speculating that he was the reason for their departure. Shocked by the news, Yongshan listens as they continue to trash-talk Jisoo Kim and his family for their alleged heinous actions. Despite Aijin's attempts to change the subject, Jaehyung persists, and Hyukjin notes that he's the one who practically destroyed all of his subordinates. Hyukjin laughs as he questions what he did to make Jisoo Kim leave, remarking that he deserved what he got. Yongshan then thinks back to the event when Aijin beat Jisoo Kim up for the first time in front of the whole class, thinking to himself that Aijin must be the real deal as his skills aren't a fluke. Hyukjin asks whether Aijin can hang out with them today. Aijin responds that he already has plans. Confused, they inquire about his plans, and he answers that he'll be hanging out with Yongshan today. Jaehyung and Hyukjin, upon hearing this news, hysterically and somewhat threateningly ask whether they can go. Yongshan, feeling intimidated, agrees. They then leave after getting his approval. Aijin questions whether he's alright with that. Nervously, Yongshan approves. We then see the teacher coming in, asking everyone to quiet down, as we see two new students entering the classroom. Yongshan is surprised to see them. Aijin notices Yongshan's reaction and asks him who they are. He answers that the girl is Yona Sin, who's part of a big company known as SW Corporation, and that her grandpa is the owner. The boy next to her is Seokju Ko, her bodyguard, who's been with her since she was little. The teacher then notes that since they already know them, there's no reason for a long introduction. But she does announce the fact that they've been away for 2 years in the US for studying purposes and that they'll start joining the class again. We then see Hyukjin and Jaehyung turn blue, fearing punishment from Seokju. Yongshan comments, wondering why they all of a sudden had 2 extra desks in their classroom. We then see the new students walking by, as a couple of boys and girls compliment Yona's appearance. Seokju and Aijin both notice each other as they intently glare at one another. Confused, Yona asks Seokju who Aijin is, possibly questioning whether he's a celebrity. Seokju, also unsure, states that he must be a new student. As Yona continues to look at Aijin, he notices her stare and decides to look back, to which she responds with a smile, only for Aijin to ignore her. Cutely, she questions why he didn't respond back. Yongshan then asks Aijin whether there's any place he'd like to go, and when Aijin responds that he's fine with anywhere, Yongshan decides that they should go to a game room. Aijin, upon hearing the name game room, suddenly remembers back to the time when he was with Sergeant Kim, who hysterically taught him about the culture of Korea, and the most important part of their culture being a gaming room, as that's what most students, especially high school students, seem to do. Sergeant Kim, taking it seriously, teaches Aijin how to game. Aijin then notes that he was right to trust Sergeant Kim, and that his intel would have come in handy at some point. Yongshan continues to talk about what they're gonna do later. He states that they might get some snacks and even go to a koinka, as Aijin then gets another flashback to Sergeant Kim teaching him about what a koinka is. Aijin starts to get fired up as he remembers back to how challenging those times were. Yongshan takes this the wrong way and nervously thinks to himself that maybe he doesn't like the gaming room or the koinka. As the school ends, Yona and Seokju converse with one another about who Aijin is, his identity, and his family. Yona realizes that Aijin is Daeun's brother and questions whether it's true, since she thought Daeun and her family all died in a plane crash. Questioning whether there's something more to Aijin's identity, Seokju suggests that they should continue to dig deeper into Aijin's character. Thank you for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed. And go support the author by reading their work.